Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. The Russian dictator, Vladimir Putin, is very combative. And he just made a statement that is hey, we're ready, bring it on. And the statement was directed to NATO. So let's see what's going on here. This is Russia Today. Reporting on 29th of July 2023, which is Saturday. Russia is ready for confrontation with NATO, Putin said. Moscow does not want a conflict with a West-led bloc, but is ready for any outcome, Russian president says. Putin, Russia is, and I'm quoting, always ready for any scenario. President Vladimir Putin told journalists on Saturday, commenting on a potential direct confrontation between the Russian and NATO militaries. The president was answering a question about the recent near collision involving Russian and American aircraft in Syria. No one wants that, end quote, the president added, pointing to the existing conflict prevention line that allow Russian and US officers to talk directly about any crisis situation, end quote. The fact that these lines still work shows that no side is interested in a conflict, he added, and I'm quoting, if someone wants it and that's not us, then we are ready, end quote, Putin added. Now, the US has about 900 troops over there in northeast Syria, where Syria has its most oil that it got. And they are just fighting ISIS. Remember, they were not invited over there by the legitimate ruler of Syria, which is Bashar al-Assad, and the Russians were involved. So the allies should just beat it and get out. But anyway, they make their own rules. That's why they like the rule-based world order, because the rules that they make, they can break them. But anybody else has to obey them and follow them to the letter of the law. So, just to make a point, what's going on in Syria. The Russian military has reported a total of 23 dangerous incidents involving Russian aircraft and those of US-led coalition since early 2023, said Admiral Oleg Gurinov, the head of Russian Reconciliation Center for Syria. Most incidents took place in July, he added. In 11 cases, the Russian pilots recorded being targeted by Western aircraft targeting systems. Such actions on the part of the US-led coalition led to the automatic engagement of onboard defense systems, which saw Russian aircraft releasing decoy flares, the admiral told journalists. Well, I don't know. Maybe not. Moscow, I'm not an expert in this kind of things, and I don't know if that's accurate. Now, to be direct with you, if I'm fair, I watched the videos. So if those decoys, parachutes, whatever, flares are just automatically deployed, how come they are deployed right on top of the drone? Isn't that strange? So let's say I'm right here and the drone gets me. Am I not supposed to drop it here? Why they just get me when I'm right on top of them and I puk. That's okay, Paganini right there for you. All right, you're not that stupid, my friends. Moscow also repeatedly warned Washington and its allies about the risk of potential direct conflict between Russia and NATO, particularly amid the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. Continued Western arms supplies to Kiev only extended the hostilities and make its Western backers engage in a conflict even deeper, Russia said. Well, as I said, yeah, you'll be ready, but I think that the Russians are provoking the Americans over there. The story with the flares automatically deployed by the airplane because it's activated its defense. Who I'm hiding right now, right on top of the drone. I don't think so. I don't buy that. I take it back. I want my money back. No, you can have her. She's too fat for me. Remember that polka song? How is that? I don't want her. You can have her. She's too fat for me. No, that's exactly. I want my money back. You can keep the flares and all that BS. I don't believe it. So anyway, maybe it's possible. I give it I don't know. Even if it's, I can't give it because the video is clear. The guys are right on top, fly over the top of the drone, and then they activate. I mean, if these guys were, oh my God, we're gonna hit you, were activated, they would be coming from far away and activate it automatically there. Why would they act only on top of the drone? But let's put that to the side. Now I don't know where the drones actually were. If the drones were in the Russian side of Syria, or the Syria per se, and not where they occupy. I'm talking about the American troops. That's an occupation force over there. That's illegitimate presence of a military in another independent sovereign country like Ukraine. All right. So here we have this one, and Putin said we're ready. I know they're ready. Because in Ukraine, people say, well, in Ukraine, the Russians are not advancing the way they want. They're not ready. They were caught by surprise. No, they were not caught by surprise because they're not tards. This is how you plan. You plan this scenario, you plan this. You plan how many scenarios you can see. And from each scenario, you got to scenario A plus, A minus, A, blah, 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 blah. You got other scenarios in case things happen. So when things evolve in the front in a certain way, like for instance, NATO said we're all in, they tossed the first scenario, which was, well, these guys are going to be done in the first 2 weeks, which they were. Okay, and they said this was the first scenario. We attack, and Ukraine will say, well, we stop, we're not going to do anything. Okay, well, let's negotiate, let's talk. That's how it was, the first scenario. Then they would, Boris Johnson showed up in Kiev. The Americans probably promised them, no, everybody come over here, we're gonna be all in. Our plan now. They took their little folder, we're gonna use this one. And then they said, okay, we're all in. Then the Russians tossed the first plan, the 2 weeks plan, and then they got the other one. Okay, NATO is in. Now from NATO in, they got other plans. How much in? 10%, 20%, 50%, and then it was what? Economic, militarily, and then they have scenarios, other scenarios, like a river that flows into the sea. You know, it goes in, and then it's like a delta, and from delta another. That's how they planned. So they were ready. The same thing with this. Don't you think that when the Westerners said we're gonna kick you out of SWIFT messaging system over there, the Russians said, okay, this scenario out, bring this scenario. What would we talk about? Okay, they were already ready. That's why nothing happened with the ruble, did not collapse and died, and the economy nosedived, and Putin was, like Saddam or whomever, because they were ready for this thing. They had everything already planned. They're not idiots, even though these guys tried to make them look that way. So yes, Putin said, we're ready. They are ready. And the Americans are ready as well. It's not like only the Russians are. No, they're ready. They have scenarios. They have plans. They have, what they're going to do. Anyway, my friends, this is it. The fact that he says it right there like that is very casual. Do they want it? No, nobody wants that, unless some idiots who think that they can use the brake whenever they want. Sometimes it's like you fly an airplane and then you think, oh, I'm going to stop the plane and I'm going to go in reverse now because I got in the wrong way. No, with airplane you go like this and you have to do something and you're not going to go back in reverse. Oh, let's put it in reverse with the airplane. Or the same thing, if you dive over a cliff, you can't come back. Well, these idiots, the big interests of this planet, they think that when they won this war, they just and they stop the whole thing. Certain things, once they start, it's done. It's like a critical mass. You reach that one, you can't control it anymore, and boom, it's done. But these guys are just, and they have more to lose than Putin or you or I with our little lives that we have. Those guys have generations. These guys have families, big families. They think that they're the master of the world. Why would they risk to be blown up? And look at where Putin came. What? He was a nobody, right? He came from a nobody family. He just got where he got by himself. He got over there. So he doesn't have a family or, how should I put it, future. Oh my God, he's 70 already, like Biden, 1,000 years old. They don't really care if the world, stops, especially Biden. He's 81 or whatever. I don't care. He lived his life. But somehow he determines if we're going to still be alive or our children will be alive. That's what bothers me. I mean, that barely conscious person for about 15 minutes a day He determines if we're going to leave. Why? Because he can make some decisions. I don't think he can make. I think the backers are going to be, take the old man down in the basement and put him back to rest in his crypt. But still, they're pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. And there's going to be a point where you launch the missiles and you can't get them back. And then what? Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.